Hello and welcome to LaunchLeft, an intentional space for art and activism, a podcast, a label, a launchpad for left of center artists. My name is Rain Phoenix, and today our special guest is Ricky Reed. Please welcome him to the show.
Hello.
Oh, hello. It's so nice to meet you here.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. I'm in my little home studio sitting on the ground as I'm most comfortable that way. Feel more grounded with the Fender Jaguar in the background, as you noted.
Yeah, very serendipitous.
Yeah, you're in the market for one, you said.
I am. Yeah, I have I don't know when this will air, but there's an artist and I'm trying to get that specific guitar before a certain point. So clock is really ticking now.
Okay, I'll let you know if suddenly it's something I want to get rid of.
Please
Please
do.
I doubt it, but I will. It's so nice to meet you, and we're here to talk about your record that just came out August 28th, which really is quite beautiful. Thank you for making it, and
thank you,
and using your quarantine time for good, as we say. Yeah, and I just wanted to know. I read a little bit about, obviously, I read what you sent through about making it and why you made it. And I guess I wanted to get a little specific in terms of just like a day in the life, like how maybe one of the songs, how it came to be a collaboration, how that happened, the organicness of like, I want to do this. And then suddenly you're in the throes of it. And what did that look like for you?
Right. I mean, my day-to-day, like I think most people, sort of as a roller coaster of despair and hope and, being, dealing with anxiety and freeze and disconnection and connection and all these. It's just a roller coaster, right? But when it came to making this album, it snuck up on me. I was doing this live stream and I was just producing music live for people to see, for people to enjoy, to interact with me. And, I would basically start with like a couple pieces of music. Maybe it's 4 or 5 p.m. So I have like a 3-year-old little girl and twin 1-year-old boys. So my house is crazy. And maybe we're eating dinner, trying to manage everything. It's all crazy. And I would, just like pull up a few instrumentals on my phone because I have a live stream that night. And I just text them to a couple artists. Hey, if you can throw a vocal on this, in the next few hours, I'll work on it tonight. Just super casual like that. And if the artist would respond and say something to the effect of like, you want me to do anything specific? My only guide was sort of just be honest. Just write something that's true, something that's, how you're feeling. And more often than not, I just started getting these incredible vocal ideas from artists, oftentimes juxtaposed over instrumentals from myself or other producers that are like from totally different communities, different worlds. And they just started to come together. And pretty soon I was in the middle of an album. It's crazy.
And it sounds like you had a kind of tea time of the soul where you're like, whoa, when everything else got stripped away, what am I doing or what do I want to do that's going to feed and enrich my soul? And that's what I really love about this record and just hearing that I think that happened for a lot of people. And I think obviously in the artist community, it was, for a lot of artists, it became an incredibly prolific time where a lot of artists just kept making itself. So I love that genesis came out of that come to Jesus moment. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's crazy about it for me is that, I had thought of making an album a couple times over the last few years, and for whatever reason was doing this or that, or, having kids or whatever the thing is that prevented me from doing so. And then the way this one came about, it wasn't like, COVID descended on us and I was like, you know what? I want to make an album right now. That sounds great. It was that I started making music as kind of a way to cope and just to deal with what was going on, to give myself something to do. And not even to say that that's always the best thing for your mental health, because sometimes, I found myself like working like too much, over functioning, trying to not really have to stop and listen to what was going on inside. But as the project developed and the live stream community grew and developed, I soon realized that this was something that I had to do for my well-being. And, to have gone from not even thinking about making an album in March to the first song, the genesis of it, in mid-April, and it being out now, I never could have predicted that this year. Not in a million years.
Yeah. You strike me as a manifester, though, like that once you get something in your mind's eye, it manifests, and you obviously have an incredible pool of artists and collaborators that you can call on. And with such a thoughtful group of collaborators, and I think the outcome speaks volumes, because it's just now out. So for all of you out there, definitely make sure you listen to this record. So I wanted to just talk more about art and activism and the artist community, because you're so connected in that world. Like you have a label yourself, is that right? Called Nice Life?
Yeah. I have a label called Nice Life. We started out 4 or 5 years ago. We signed Lizzo, and that Lizzo, obviously, far and away is the greatest, success we've had. She's incredible. And just in the last year, I think, on the heels of that, and also on me sort of really taking ownership of the idea behind the company, we've signed some amazing young artists that all, like Lizzo, but in different ways, all start, left, that are either maybe they're political, maybe their presence, just their visibility is a political statement. Maybe they're subversive in some other way, but that's what we like to do, is find those artists that are on the fringe that need to be amplified, and hopefully bring them all to the place that Lizzo is at now.
Is it a fledgling label? And I know you also have a YouTube channel, I think, that you started doing.
Yeah. So we started the live stream on the label's channel at the top of, it sounds like I was going to say top of the year, at the top of the pandemic, at the beginning of all this. But yeah, we're an independent company, and we have some amazing young new artists, one of which I think you would really love also is called Saint Panther. She's a brilliant writer, producer, MC, etc., from Southern California. Also, John Robert calls to mind like a Jeff Buckley type of voice, really, really powerful. And another artist from Bakersfield named Junior Mesa, who is somewhere, I don't know what you would call it, kind of an indie psychedelic sound. Things that are really all from across the spectrum.
Very cool.
I joke often that I have a short attention span. So
yeah,
I'm always looking for different things.
Yeah, I can relate. Is that something that you would say is that you're most excited about, or do you just kind of, you're excited about all the things you're doing, and it depends on the day and what you're like you said, your short attention span settles on?
Right. It definitely depends on the day. It definitely depends on the day. But, for me, all these artists, they're such kind people and hardworking and inspiring, that it's really a joy to just have them all in my life as people. I like to joke sometimes that, for me, music is like the medium. It's sort of what I learned and what I grew up on. It's my trade, but it's really a means to an end, which is that I love connecting with people and meeting people and hearing their stories. And I get to do that on the label, and I also get to do that just as a record producer.
And do you find yourself producing right now? Are you busy producing outside of the label and your record?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, like my schedule is sort of split up between, you know, today's superstars and tomorrow's superstars. So kind of will go from working on something that like, you know, an artist that has like 1,000 followers on Instagram that is right at the beginning of their journey. And then we'll have to hand in a mix or a production for so-and-so top 40 artists. So that for me keeps it interesting, keeps it fun. But again, the through line that runs through it is I just try to work only with good people, kind people.
And how young were you when you started in music? Like I asked two questions. One is how music found you. So I'm going to ask you that question right now. How did music find you?
That's a good question. It took on different shapes, but it started, I don't think I could say it truly found me when I took piano lessons as a kid. It didn't find me then. It was when I was in junior high. I was growing up in the Bay Area, and there's a lot of great Bay Area hip hop around me. But when I was in junior high was like when the Gilman street punk scene sort of took off, and Green Day transitioned to the national stage. It was like that moment, and I just wanted so bad to just be in a band. I wanted to be on stage and play guitar and sing and just do all the all the band stuff, which was not common at my school. Everybody was like into sports and this and that. So my first performance singing in a band was at a little coffee shop, a little gig that I organized. We covered like 30 songs, and the playlist was probably hilarious. Just like 90s alternative rock greatest hits, like No Doubt and Blink-182 and stuff. And, 40 or 50 of my friends showed up. And my mom tells the story now. When I came home that night, she saw the look in my eyes when I came home from that first show, and she was like, "Oh, this is it. This is what he's going to do forever." I was a sophomore in high school.
Wow. And from then on, you started like, did it evolve just as as you in a band, or did you immediately get into, Ableton and Pro Tools because I can't even think of the year that was. So I know that.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure this is pre-Ableton. It was even early Pro Tools. I'm a sophomore in high school then. And, like I said, I grew up idolizing bands, like watching MTV, all this kind of stuff. So, I had an idea about the way I wanted my records to sound, even though I was not good at all. But I still was like, I wanted them to sound big and powerful and have all kinds of interesting sounds and ear candy and stuff. So by the time I'm a junior, senior, in high school, the studio that I'm recording at, I'm begging the guy to let me stay late or come in early and kind of figure it out and try to add all these things that I'm hearing. And he obliged and sort of gave me a little job of, recording punk bands on the weekends for $100 here or there. So that's really the beginning. That's the beginning of it for me, is like just trying to get my records to sound the way I wanted them to sound. I'm 38 now. I was 16 when I started. So I've been on Pro Tools for like 22 years. I mean,
wow.
It's like, it's really my first instrument. I mean, it sounds cheesy and uncool, but it's an extension of my brain at this point. And feels like an old friend.
I know what you mean. I know. I never, I know enough chords on guitar to write, but ultimately, like when I first started watching engineers when I was making records and I got really into Pro Tools, it's like it became something you could make so much more with if you just understood how it worked, So I really enjoy. I'm sure a much more rudimentary understanding of it than you do, but it's an amazing tool. And it is like an instrument when as a creative, it's such a great way to be able to make something from scratch that sounds like almost pro.
I just love making stuff. Like neither of my parents were serious musicians. But my mom was a crazy record collector. Just, she raised me on, I don't even know where to start. Just everything from R&B music and soul music and Motown to prog rock, a heavy, dose of Beatles, everything you could think of. My dad, not musical, self-proclaimed non-musical. I think everybody's musical, if we're being honest. But not musical is how he puts it, but a total project person. Always coming up with a interesting, creative project, figuring it out himself, completing it, doesn't leave things incomplete. And I think that it's some combination of those things that they passed along to me that make me love producing and love seeing something all the way through and getting it out.
Sometimes it's interesting to ask people about music and how it found them. And it often involves family. Sometimes it's because family was encouraging, and other times it's because it was the opposite. And so they fought against being discouraged and still triumphed, found their path to music, which both are they arrive at the same place. But it's so wild to think of the people who really had to push against, parents who were like, yeah, no, that's not going to get you anywhere,
Yes. I'm sorry.
No worries.
I want one of my parents chiming in right now. They could tell we were
so
talking
cute.
about them.
No way. That was them
Yeah.
calling. Oh, I'm going to leave that in. That's so great. And now you're a parent. You're a dad. How does that feel? That's been recent.
Yeah. We had our daughter in 2017. I can't tell if that's yesterday or 20 years ago. But yeah, it's amazing. It's really, really challenging having 3 kids under 3, especially, in 2020, but they give as much energy as they drain. You know what I'm saying? They've expanded my heart so much and helped me. I think they've helped me become more of a listener, less of a talker and more of a listener, and help me listen to myself and listen to others and know when to slow down and know how to listen to your needs. Just from learning how to listen to their needs, I've been able to track inside of myself when I'm pushing too hard or not really taking care. I've already learned so much from them, and only one of them can talk.
And do you think it influenced your music or production in any way that seeped in just in a heart space way to what you do? Or
yeah, I actually think that it has, because I haven't really realized this until making this album, but I think as I've gone through my career, I had been trying to get closer and closer and closer to something. And you could, I don't know, those words like authenticity or truth or whatever, the root, just trying to get closer to that feeling, to that purity of feeling. And it really got accelerated. Every time in my life that I've found love, I've had an acceleration of getting closer to the root. When I met my now wife, Laura, I had my first hit about 6 months after we met. And even since our relationship and getting married and everything, just look at my career and you look at these life events, there's all these bumps along the way that sort of correspond. And then having our daughter and then having our boys, like Lizzo, happened right after that. And it's not to say, that my infant children could, take credit for Lizzo's career. She's been working her ass off for a decade. But it's just to say that through the lens of my life, every time a new great love appears, there's some correlation with getting closer to what I've been chasing musically.
that's beautiful. I know exactly what you mean. And I think maybe in a spiritual sense or a spiritual translation of that is when you create something beautiful, blessings happen, or, in terms of how you think of karma as like what you put out, you get back, and,
Right.
making a new life and falling in love and all those joyful feelings, they create goodness in the world, and they connect good people to good people. And so I totally get that. I know
Yeah.
I sound a bit out there, but I believe in all of that.
I'm with you. I am right with you. We're on the same page.
Okay, my other question is kind of in that vein, or somewhat, is just sort of, what do you champion most in a world that right now feels like it's falling apart in many ways, and things are been really, really challenging, and they always are, to be totally fair. What is it that you use your art or to create kind of an activism with, or what is your form of activism? Is the simplest way we say it.
I mean, that's a really good question. It comes in like in different forms on different levels, like the first thing naturally that somebody like in my position is going to do is look to great organizations who do this, kind of thing full time, climate action groups, etc. I'm very, 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 very passionate about staving off and reversing the effects of man-made global warming. So you start there, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I think the mission, which is at the root of my music making and the reason I started a label and I'm trying to build this community, is like trying to get people to be kind to one another, but most importantly, to be kind to themselves, to check in with themselves, to be honest with themselves. To me, if the world leaders and the chairpersons of these, multinational corporations that are doing as much, if not more, bad things than all these world leaders, if all these people had grown up in an environment where they were encouraged to check in with themselves, to be kind to themselves, to be honest with the people around them, I think we would be in a different world. And I think that there's some momentum with today's like younger generations to be listening to yourself in that way and to try to root out problems before they turn into something that creates badness in the world, malice, whatever you want to call it. So I don't think I have like a good, clearly I don't have like
I love that.
organization or a
said.
business plan here, but I think that at the root of what I'm doing, it has to do with this, and maybe I'll find a way to implement it properly someday. But right now it's kind of one song, one artist, one album at a time.
That's a beautiful thing. I mean, I think I'm trying to remember who one of the artists we asked, they just said like they make sure to smile at everyone that they can on the street, when they're walking down. And this was before COVID.
Honestly,
when we were walking out a lot more, but still, like, that is a really powerful statement that I think is a form of activism. Absolutely. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Of course.
And
my pleasure.
thank you for being on the show. I would love to play No Stone, play that out to finish this episode with you, if that's okay with you.
Beautiful. That's might be my favorite song on the album. Let's hear it.
Okay, so listeners and watchers out there, we're going to hear the song No Stone from the record Room by Ricky Reed. Please enjoy.
Where is the only world I know? Could it be better than before? Change without warning, just before morning. I listen and I
LaunchLeft aims to create an intentional space that highlights and empowers all artists for whom radical creativity is not a choice, but a necessity. LaunchLeft begins with music, but its ultimate aim is to launch left-of-center artists in all creative fields.